Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 series, Rescue the Rockies. And spring training is now underway. We won our first game of the spring 6-0 against the Dodgers. We got the results on the development lab at the end of the last episode. 4 of our 8 long programs were successful, so we now turn our attention to the shorter programs. Got some thoughtful advice from Ravenspawn 3 on what to perhaps do in the development lab with these shorter programs. And I think 7 of our 8 decisions line up with what Ravenspawn 3 recommended. We're going to have the young infielder Johnny Castillo, who just had a successful bat speed program working on his infield defense. Trent Kaysen and Derby Mahez also will be working on their infield defense. And then we're going to have 5 outfielders working on their defense. Mike Castro, first-round pick from a couple of years ago. Phil Dingwell, who we're hoping will be a strong contender for Rookie of the Year this year. Ted Miller, Kevin Roberts, and Kevin Wayment also all working on their outfield defense. I think the one player that I differed with Ravenspawn 3 on was having Ted Miller in with the defensive program. He is 27 years old, has been primarily our DH for the last several seasons, but would not mind if he were a little better defensively to potentially give us a little more flexibility going forward with him. And before we get going, we'll check on a couple of other things related to comments from the past episode. Holdor brought up that the Dodgers last year were an average offensive team and a very bad defensive team. Wanted a deeper look at their statistics. Unfortunately, now that spring training has begun, the detailed ranking stats from a year ago are no longer as easily accessible. They might be in the game somewhere, but I don't know where they are offhand. But to Holdor's point, the Dodgers, who went 95-67, were a ridiculous 13 games better than expectations. They shouldn't have been in the playoffs, even though they ended up battling for the division with us all year long, and they did push us to a deciding 5th game in the divisional series, but certainly seems like they may have gotten historically lucky last year, finishing 13 games better than their Pythagorean expectations. And thinking about the Dodgers brings me back to some other comments from Avery Shyam and Patrick DeBonis. And for those of you who are wondering, I am watching the Yankees and Red Sox game again tonight. We are, as I start this episode, in the top of the 8th, tied 3-3, 1 out for the Red Sox right now. So hoping that the Yankees can do better in the late innings tonight than they did last night and push this at least to a deciding Game 3 tomorrow in the Bronx. Would think that by the time we get through this likely relatively short episode, where I'm primarily going to be focused on getting through spring training healthy with our Rockies, that by the time we're through that and we've made our decisions on the 26-man roster, we'll probably know for sure whether or not the Yankees season is over or whether they will live to fight another day. And we're off to a good start in the extremely early going of spring training. A 3-0 record over our first 3 games. Kevin Wayment and Derby Mahez, both of whom are working with us in the development lab, leading the National League in ribbies in the very early going. If you're wondering what's going on with the Yankees and the Red Sox, we're headed to the bottom of the 8th, still tied 3-3. So the Yankees now have 6 outs to try to score a run to win this game. Only 3 left for the Red Sox offensively if we don't end up going into extra innings. So you would think that hopefully favors the Yankees if you're a fan of the Bronx Bombers like I am. And another week of spring training in the books. Not playing quite as well with a 6-4 record, but Phil Dingwell is making a very strong case to make the roster and hopefully set himself up for, as we talked about, a potential Rookie of the Year campaign, which might result in a prospect promotion incentive for us, given that Dingwell remains one of the top 30 prospects in baseball at number 28. All he's done so far is position himself for a potential spring training triple crown with a OPS of close to 2,000 in the very early going. Not all the news is perfect, though, but one good piece of information. We do have a couple guys banged up, but nothing too significant thus far. Our scout Justin Abbott just found a pretty interesting scouting find in Orlando Preciado. We think he's got pretty decent potential. Looks like he could be a useful starting pitcher down the line if he reaches his full potential. Certainly no guarantees that he will, but do like that the 17-year-old is durable, really good stamina, good at holding on runners, and certainly looks like if he comes close to reaching his full potential, he could be a pretty useful major league arm. And if he reaches his full potential, the 17-year-old lefty, probably a pretty solid third or fourth starter. And another week of spring training in the books. Some minor injuries continue to crop up. Jeff Colson, the youngster, number 17 prospect in baseball, former first-round pick, out with back stiffness for the next 4 days. He is fragile physically, but doesn't seem like that's something that's going to become incredibly significant. Catcher Mike Girard, who also happens to be fragile, knee soreness for the next 5 days. Only a minimal impact on his running, but given that it is spring training, probably no need to push the envelope too much with him. We are at the midway point in terms of our programs in the development lab. A lot of frustration with the defensive programs, but two are going well. Mike Castro on track with his outfield defense program, and Kevin Roberts Jr., the veteran, is allegedly excelling with his program. Not sure exactly how much he's going to improve at this point. Doesn't look like anyone is really at risk for a regression. So probably just let these guys continue to run through and hope that ultimately we get at least two, if not maybe 3 or 4 successful programs. Doesn't look like Kevin Waymont and Johnny Castillo are too far off from being on track with their programs. And we're heading towards the final day of spring training tomorrow. Looks like we've got 2 guys competing for the spring training triple crown. Kevin Roberts Jr. and Phil Dingwell both continue to have monster springs for our 16-10-1 Rockies. With just 1 game left, the good news is that we've got 3 guys now excelling in the development lab with Mike Castro, Kevin Roberts Jr., and Kevin Waymont set up well. Unfortunately, Trenton Grayson is now struggling with his infield defense. And more importantly than even the impact it might have on Waymont's defensive improvement, he did just suffer a strained shoulder. He's going to be out for 6 to 7 weeks. So he was likely targeted as our 4th outfielder, given that we're going to be playing Dingwell every day this year. But unfortunately, Waymont not going to be available to make the roster here coming out of spring training, so could give somebody else who wouldn't have been on the 26-man roster an opportunity to perhaps move up to the majors. Could be an opportunity for the likes of Mike Castro, who, as we talked about, is also potentially excelling in his efforts to improve his infield defense. And before we sim through the final day of spring training and find out what actually happens in the development lab when we get to the start of the season, good news for us Yankees fans. Austin Wells just singled in the go-ahead run 4-3 in the bottom of the 8th. Jazz Chisholm scored all the way from first on a single. Anthony Volpe just added a single, so runners on first and second with 2 outs for the Yankees as they try to extend their 4-3 lead on the Red Sox and perhaps push things to a deciding game number 3 in this wild card series. And our Rockies finished spring training with a 16-10-2 record. No material injuries other than the one we talked about with Waymont. So starting to think about what the 26-man roster should look like. That's what we'll be working on over the next few days before we get to the beginning of the regular season. No spring training triple crown. Dingwell ended up leading the league in ribbies. Roberts Jr. ended up leading the league in homers, but unfortunately they finished second and third in batting average behind Sean Gamble of the Brewers. As far as the Yankees and Red Sox, we head to the top of the ninth. Yankees up 1 run, 4-3. They did get a walk to load the bases with 2 outs. The Red Sox pulled Whitlock after 47 pitches, and then the young reliever came in and got the final out of the inning. So for the second straight game, the Yankees load the bases in the very late innings. At least they got a run out of it this time, although it was actually before they loaded the bases. We'll see if they can get the final 3 outs against the Red Sox. If they do, probably potentially positive for the Yankees heading into game number 3, the potential game number 3 on Thursday, as with Cora pulling Bello early from the game, the Red Sox have now used 6 relievers, and you would have to think after 47 pitches, going to be hard for them to pitch Whitlock tomorrow night, although Chapman presumably will be ready to go. And as we're deciding who's going to be heading north from Arizona to Colorado for our team, the Yankees and the Red Sox are headed to a decisive game number 3 of their wild card series. David Bednar with a strong performance in relief, 3 up, 3 down to earn the save. 4-3 victory for the Bronx Bombers, and we will be having a decisive game number 3 tomorrow evening. Taking a look at our pitchers, the decisions here ended up, I can't say being easy, but they weren't surprising. Every year at the end of the season, when I'm doing my annual roster review, I start trying to slot in what I think our team's pitching staff is going to look like next season. And after we made the trade for Aaron Bell back on October 30th, right when the season or the off season was getting underway, the 13 pitchers who I envisioned being on our team are going to be on our team at the start of this season as everyone is healthy and well. Leo Martinez and Noah Schultz going to be back as our world-class 1-2 duo at the top of the rotation. Aaron Bell takes over as a third starter. Andrew Painter and Bernie Barrera back in the rotation as fourth and fifth starters. Donis Valer, after missing the second half plus of last season, back and healthy as our closer. Justin Gibson, Wellington Herrera, and Chris Kennedy, who looks like he could be developing into a monster, will be our setup men. Luke Little, a lefty middle reliever, joined by Rich Hannon and Josh Joss, and then Gregorio Olvera, who was an all-star for us a year ago, back in a long relief role, and he'll be our emergency starter. A lot of good young pitchers who are just off major league quality were among the final cuts. The relievers Melvin Reyes and Jake Lyons, starting pitchers Kevin Canty, Dan Patterson, and last year's supplemental first-round pick David Guadrone, all among the final cuts. So we do have some depth in AAA that we think could help supplement this pitching staff down the line if we do need some help as this season moves along. And we've made our roster decisions as far as our position players as well. Much tougher decisions here to get to 13 players. Final cuts were Luke Dickerson, the veteran infielder who we signed to a minor league contract with major league options. We've got 30 days until he can opt out of his contract. We're going to try to play him every day in AAA, make him a little more versatile defensively, and may have to find a way to bring him up to retain his rights. It's possible that we'll also have an injury and need to bring him up for the infield, but he does not make the 26-man roster. Chris Roy, the outfielder who was with us for most of last year in a platoon with the also not on the team because he's injured Kevin Wayment, ended up being a late cut. And the final cut was the former first-round pick Mike Castro. He looks ready for the big leagues when we looked at his ratings, although he wasn't dominant in AAA last year. But just don't know that we have consistent bats for him, consistent at-bats for him against right-handed pitching, and want him to be in the lineup every day, given that he's still only 23 years old, although he'll be 24 not too long from now. So one surprise on the roster, potentially with those three cuts that we'll talk about shortly, but 12 players should not really be surprising. Mike Girard back as our starting catcher. He'll be backed up by Nate Harris. Ryan Stone back at first. Dervy Mahez back at second. Rosnile DePaula back at third. Ezekiel Tovar back at short. As expected, Trent Kaysen and Cody Schreier will be utility infielders for us, with the youngster Kaysen playing against left-handed pitching for us. The surprise perhaps is Manuel Torres, 24-year-old, almost 25-year-old, former 10th round pick, a guy who only has one option year left at this point. Doesn't have much left to prove in AAA after he hit 290 with 26 doubles, 13 triples, and 26 homers a year ago. Bat that looks like it could be useful at the major league level. He can kind of play a lot of positions defensively, although he's not good anywhere. But Torres makes the team as a bat for us against left-handed pitching. He'll be our DH against lefties, and felt like, given that we're not as concerned with his development at this point as we are with someone like Castro, and the fact that we think his bat against left-handed pitching is better than that of Chris Roy, Torres kind of the surprise to make the roster. Phil Dingwell, the youngster, going to be our everyday left fielder. Kevin Roberts Jr., 5 tools, going to be our everyday right fielder. Anthony Pack Jr. going to be our everyday center fielder. And Ted Miller will be our designated hitter and number 5 hitter against right-handed pitching. The injury to Wayment does leave us a little short of left-handed bats. The left-handed bats that we have, particularly Ryan Stone and Ted Miller, are deadly against right-handed pitching, and we also have Anthony Pack Jr. in the mix, but would look forward to having Wayment, the left-handed hitter, back, hopefully in about a month and a half. He would give us a nice fourth outfielder, left-handed bat off the bench, and give us a little more versatility to mix and match and pinch hit going forward, but don't have that option to start the season, so another right-handed hitter in Manuel Torres going to get the opportunity at the major league level. And we're a day from the start of the regular season, a day from finding out what happened in the development lab. Castro still looks like he's poised for a really good result as far as his outfield defense. Definitely stinks that we can't have a spot for him. He certainly looks ready for the majors when we look at his ratings. Could be an opportunity for us to perhaps move on from the increasingly expensive Ted Miller after this upcoming season. Coming off another big year for us, making $8.3 million this year, set to be making around $13.5 next year. That number certainly could change as things move on, but Castro is excelling. Ted Miller, 5 tools, Roberts, and Wayment all on track, although Wayment certainly regressing quickly, being injured. So it looks like we could have 4 out of our 5 outfield defense programs be successful. The infield not looking nearly as good at this point. One piece of injury news, not relevant to us, but the young pitcher Matt Stream, torn rotator cuff, suffered a couple of days ago. The 23-year-old former supplemental first-round pick that we were very interested in the draft back in 2031, and I know some members of the worldwide scouting department really liked him as well. Unfortunately for him, he's just going to pitch 1 game this year in AAA. He did a pretty nice job in the 5 2/3 innings that he pitched, but after pitching just 9 games a year ago, only 1 for him this year. We'll see what he looks like on the other side of that injury. And expectations from ownership are for us to win it all for a 4th consecutive season, so no pressure there. We've made it to opening day. Top 100 prospects list published. No Colorado Rockies among the top 10, although we still have a very highly regarded organization. Really no changes in what happened in the development lab. No improvement on infield defense for Johnny Castillo, Trent Kaysen, or Derby Mahez. No improvement in the outfield for Phil Dingwell. But Kevin Wayment improved his outfield defense despite the injury, so that's positive to see. Kevin Roberts Jr. also improved a little bit in arm and range. His error rating improved significantly, so still anticipate that he could be a Gold Glove winner in right field at some point. That might help push him in that direction. And Ted Miller with a successful program as well. The error rating, similar to Roberts, improved by about 5. Smaller improvements in arm and range, but the longtime DH, that makes him a little more playable in the outfield when we need to do that. And then an outstanding result for Mike Castro with the arm, the range, and the error all improving by 5 points. He totally looks ready for the majors at this point. Mentioned he's close to 24 years old. Was basically a league average-ish player in the offense-heavy PCL last year, but still put up some very impressive numbers with 34 doubles, 14 triples, 14 homers. You can see he's off to a nice start this year, 3 for his first 8 with 3 ribbies. We just don't have a spot in the lineup for him against right-handed pitching. I guess you could argue he's pretty much fully developed. Can you just play him as lefties and use him as a utility outfielder? Maybe, but it seems like a little bit of a waste. With his 6-foot height and those ratings, we could try to train him at first base. He'll be passable there, probably kind of a 40, 45 kind of rating there if I had to guess. Someone who's not going to be a total butcher, but still not going to be good defensively either. The struggle is just that we are so loaded at this point. I mean, you look at this profile for a 23-year-old that we spent a first-round pick on less than 2 years ago, and how is he not in the major leagues for us? But when we realistically take a look at the roster that we have against right-handed pitching, we want the youngster Dingwell in the lineup every day. I mean, theoretically, you could argue maybe we keep Dingwell down and play Castro over him, but Dingwell is older. He's been with the organization longer. He's a higher-rated prospect, and he's got even less to prove after putting up a ridiculous 163 WRC plus in AAA and also excelling in the 39 at-bats he had for us a year ago. Not that Castro's ready to play first base, but against right-handed pitching, you're not going to play him over Ryan Stone. Obviously, there's probably nobody in the major leagues that gets Kevin Roberts Jr. out of the lineup. Ted Miller, our DH, similar to Stone, is an absolute monster against right-handed pitching. Batting-wise, Anthony Pack Jr., the lefty, is certainly the least impressive bat of any of these outfielders that we've talked about. but he is a two-time defending Gold Glove winning center fielder who's been a respectable offensive player for us, averaging over a 4 WAR for us the 2 years that he's been with us, given he's so good defensively and he is the third left-handed bat in the lineup against right-handed pitching. To me, I think we keep Castro down for the time being. It's crazy to say, but we're just so loaded in the outfield that maybe next off season we look to see what we could get for Ted Miller. Maybe we'll look to trade him earlier than that. But the issue with Miller, of course, is that we're losing one of the few left-handed bats that we have on the team. So eventually injuries, salaries, ineffectiveness will help us work this out. But definitely a little bummed that we just don't have a spot in the starting lineup for Castro at this point. And before we finish things up and see what this team without Castro is expected to do this year, take a look at the expectations for the American League. Only 2 teams projected to win 90 games through the simulation. The Angels expected to be the best in the AL with 94 wins, and the White Sox, who have fallen to us 3 consecutive years in the World Series, expected to win 91 games. Only 7 games expected to separate first from worst in the AL East. And interestingly, the White Sox are expected to run away with the AL Central, but the other 4 teams expected to be just a game apart in the standings, so that could be an entertaining race to watch. Turning to the National League, 3 90-win teams projected here. The Brewers at 90, the Marlins at 99, and then our Rockies expected to go 104-58 as we've talked about, try to win a 4th straight world title, 5th and 6th years. Kevin Roberts Jr. and Ted Miller, interestingly, who we were just talking about, both expected to have very big offensive seasons for us. And not surprisingly, Leo Martinez, who's pursuing a 3rd consecutive Cy Young Award, and Noah Schultz, who's trying to get a 3rd Cy Young Award for his career, both expected to have very strong years for us on the mound. And with that, we will call it an episode. Next time around, the new 2036 season will get underway. We do have a fair amount of financial flexibility if we need help to bring on some contracts. We've got about $13 million to bring in some help as we get closer to the trade deadline if there's any holes that open on this roster. Although honestly, with the young pitchers we talked about that we're going to have in AA and AAA who are close to major league ready, and the fact that we've got outfielders like Mike Castro, Chris Roy, and the injured Kevin Wayment not on the roster, and an infielder like Luke Dickerson, who's at least for the near term stuck in AAA, we can probably handle an injury or 2 without even needing to hit the trade market all that hard. So it looks like on paper and on the computer screen, we are the favorites to win it all again here in 2036. And we'll find out what type of progress we're able to make towards that goal in the early going of the season next time around. Until then, hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for watching, and go Yankees.